We need to remember Ben, and we need to remember all the individuals that have given so much. And that's our reminder of why we will not give up. They may not be here to fight anymore for themselves and for the rest of us, but it is our duty, I believe, as human beings that we say, okay, that torch is mine now. And if we all take a little bit of that torch, do you know how bright and how much gets done? We can get a lot of shit done.
Educate, inform, inspire. The Dan Parsons Show, a podcast that lifts up instead of tearing down.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Dan Parsons Show. I am your host, Dan Parsons. Hey, in a moment, I'll introduce today's guest, Crista Eggers, the Executive Director of Nebraskans for Medical Marijuana. But before I do, just a word about this interview today. In addition to updating us on the status of the continued fight to implement the ballot language that was approved overwhelmingly last fall by Nebraska voters, Crista and I both get a little emotional talking about the death of Ben Marksmeier, one of the many volunteers who have fought to legalize medical cannabis in Nebraska. You see, back in 2006, at the age of 20, Ben's convoy was struck by a roadside bomb in southern Iraq. Ben was one of the most decorated soldiers in Nebraska, having earned a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star with valor for his bravery on that day back in 2006. You may recall Ben, along with Dominic Gillen, were my guests just a few weeks ago. Ben passed away just a couple weeks ago. So we dedicate this episode to Ben's memory and the fight to accomplish his vision of getting his fellow veterans and others the medical treatment they deserve. Okay, here's my interview with Crista Eggers. Enjoy. Hey, I'm pleased to welcome back to the show Crista Eggers, Executive Director of Nebraskans for Medical Marijuana. Crista Eggers is the hardest working person I know. She's the most passionate person for a cause that I've met in recent history. And she is still fighting for the right of people in Nebraska to use medical cannabis. So Crista, my friend, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's always good to be here with you, Dan.
Yeah. We're in the middle of summer and people are going about their lives. Kids are away from school. We're taking family vacations. We just got done with the 4th of July and people are having picnics. But in the meantime, there's a hell of a lot still going on behind the scenes with this issue. And so I just wanted to check in with you. And I know our audience is deeply concerned and interested in this topic. So what's the update?
Yeah, gosh, it's always hard to know where to start because it's so confusing. And so I want people out there to know that if you're completely confused and have no idea what's going on, that's okay, because I'm right in the heat of it. And some days I'm confused by it all. So, just as a reminder, Nebraskans passed 2 statutory initiatives dealing with medical cannabis last November. We're going on almost a year now since that certification happened to place us on the ballot. We have been in litigation constantly, left and right, one challenge after another. Many of those coming from John Keane, a former state senator, appointed by then Governor Ricketts, and has also been a leader of SAM, which is Smart Approaches to Marijuana. Not to be confused with a group that advocates for marijuana, but they are against the use of marijuana. So no surprise that he has brought litigation. There was a fraud case, is what we call it, going after whether the initiatives were on the ballot legally or not. And then there was also a second challenge that, again, the state also joined in on against the ballot initiatives regarding something called preemption. Basically that we cannot do that. We cannot legalize cannabis because it's federally illegal. What we've seen, again, for almost a year now, is every single challenge that John Keane has brought, or the state, the attorney general, who has, again, kind of piggybacked onto all of this, they have lost. And they have lost, and they've lost again. And when they've lost, they've appealed, and they've lost that. So I think we're sitting here at about 16 or 17 losses for them, challenge after challenge.
0-17, not a good record.
0-17. But, it still is a thing. We are still litigating that. So very clearly, the opposition is not giving up. They are continuing despite however much it costs, how many lives that they ruin, people that they just hold hostage in this cycle of litigation. So extremely, extremely sad, not only for the ballot initiatives and the people of the state of Nebraska, but the people that are dealing with this, that are defendants.
Yeah. By the way, if I can just interrupt,
if I can just do that.
Yeah, if I can just interrupt and say, I'm sorry, Crista, but I've had people come to me, and I don't expect you to know this answer, but I just wanted to bring it up because you mentioned the litigation. I've had several people ask me, and maybe this is public, maybe you can help us out. Who's paying for all that? I mean, I understand the state and the attorney general, that's our tax dollars at work. I understand that.
Exactly right.
I understand that. But the private litigation, do we know who's paying for that?
Well, with John Keene being the plaintiff on the case, John Keene, or wherever John Keene is getting his money from,
Okay.
I no, the firm answer, 100% answer is no. We don't know where that money is coming from, but we can piece things together. And again, I'm always careful to say this. I'm just going to speak on behalf of myself right now, and what I interpret, not on behalf of the campaign. But we know Senator Ricketts has long time been opposed to cannabis legalization, was very, very vocal in his opposition. His right-hand man was John Keene, and continued that opposition, now that Senator Ricketts is in Washington. Yeah. So I've got to think, connecting the dots, this isn't money that just fell out of the sky.
Well, yes. And we all know that Senator Ricketts and his family is prone to spend money on those political causes here in the state. Anyway, I didn't want to put you on this.
Huge. I mean, what I should mention too is this many challenges, this many, times in court, briefs being filed, and a 4-day trial where we had expert witnesses. Yeah. I believe there was 12 assistant attorney generals the state brought in on that trial. Wow. We're talking about millions of dollars that have been spent.
Well, anyway, maybe there's, I know there are great investigative journalists here in our state. So
I think some folks should try to follow up on that one.
Yeah. Okay. So keep going.
Yeah. So, we're at a point now where there's an appeal of an appeal, and we're hopeful that by the end of the year, there is a Supreme Court hearing happening on the fraud, or let's just say fraud, that's what we call it. In late September, we expect to be before the Supreme Court on that. Again, hopeful. The judge has already made a decision. It is essentially trying to say the judge got it wrong. Hopefully we'll have that behind us. And then this appeal on preemption and standing of John Keene. Again, would hope by the end of the year that we also have a ruling then. But, in the meantime,
we're trying to get the regs in place.
We're trying to get the rules and regulations in place. There's no rest in this process. It was straight from legislative session where we failed to get a bill passed, straight up until this July 1st deadline, which was what the ballot initiative laid out for this commission, the Medical Cannabis Commission, that was formed when voters enacted Statute 438, the regulation side. And then it allowed the governor to appoint 2 individuals, which we saw that as well. Unfortunately, but no surprise that those individuals, have been anti-cannabis and against the implementation of any medical cannabis program for well over a decade now. So, we have a commission that I believe, again, is being strong-armed. I believe they're being given orders and they are following it. And we saw that the governor signed emergency rules and regulations to meet this July 1st deadline. Currently, those emergency rules and regs that the Cannabis Commission rolled out, have some huge issues with them. Limitation, it excludes flower, full plant access.
That goes against what we voted on.
That's absolutely accurate that this is not what the people voted on. In fact, the people voted on 437 and 438, which each of those initiatives included a definition of cannabis. And that definition is every part of the plant in every form. And again, up to the discretion of a practitioner on what that patient needs. And what we saw in these emergency rules and regs was the limitation of flower, vaporization, the adding of any natural artificial flavoring in an edible. So huge restrictions. We also see that 12 dispensaries statewide. That just isn't adequate. We are going to see patients that cannot access their medicine. Therefore, again, what is going to happen with a narrow, watered down program that the people did not pass is we're going to see the black market absolutely skyrocket. We're going to see people go in other directions and oftentimes access their medicine in an unsafe way because they have no other options. So from a campaign standpoint, from advocates and supporters in this, we are working very, very diligently on making sure the commission knows that these rules and regulations are not acceptable and that they do defy the voter enacted statute 438.
And by the way,
that we don't know.
Yeah, and by the way, Crista, mentioning the black market that will naturally occur because the state isn't doing their job to pass these regulations, then we're missing out on tax dollars.
Yes. Yep. The commission, and often this is a great question that I get asked is, okay, but what can the commission do? The commission is only authorized for the dispensing, distribution, manufacturing of cannabis. So essentially the industry of how a patient will get their cannabis. They cannot set fees. They cannot set taxes. It is all in the licensing and how the distribution will happen of cannabis. There are no protections that they can act on patients. They can't set up penalties. They cannot put ailments in there. They are not able to change the language there. They did not do any of those things with their emergency rules and regs, but again, clearly in violation by the limitations that they put in there. And, Governor Pillen on his monthly call-in show just 2 days ago, reiterated and restated, clearly saying that if people need medical cannabis, they will get it, but it's going to be a bitter pill to swallow. And that was comments that he made earlier this year. And those comments came back. And I believe that these rules and regs have that written all over them. You can get it in a suppository, a patch, an oil. If it is in a edible gummy form, it's going to taste like crap, using the governor's words, because we cannot flavor it. We can't put any type of coating on it. We do that with amoxicillin. My son just needed amoxicillin the other day. When I got to the pharmacy, they asked, do you want it flavored, bubblegum flavored?
Exactly. I remember that as a parent. My kids, the bubblegum or the regular. Yeah.
And that isn't saying that, hey, now it's candy. Or that this should appeal more. No, it's making it that when a patient needs something, that we're going to make it a little easier. We're going to make it taste a little better, because that's the compassionate, right thing to do.
Well,
so these
again,
regs, are a disaster.
Well, again, I'll add my commentary. You don't need to play along if you don't want to, but it just seems to continue to be this theme of office holders from Washington to now here in Nebraska. It's about how cruel can we be to our citizens.
Yes. That is through and through in these emergency rules and regs. There is another meeting. They just had an open comment time where we asked Nebraskans to reach out to the commission, letting them know what they thought about them. These rules and regs will stay in place as emergency until September 28th, I believe it is, which is right before the October 1 deadline from the ballot language that licensing needs to be starting. So right now there's really uncertainty on how does someone apply for a license. There's some of that language in the rules and regs, but currently the commission does not have a website, to my knowledge. The email address that is on file is actually liquor control, and there is no formal application available. So just very, very unfortunate. And, I feel like there is a common message that I'm getting, or our campaign is getting. And people understandably who say, I'm just done with this. Like, the state has done everything. They've been successful. Let's just be done, or let's be done and let's move on to recreational or adult use. And so I'd like to speak to that a little bit today.
Absolutely, Crista. Yeah, please.
I mean, there is no one in this state, I would challenge, that feels the frustration and the anger more than myself and the individuals who have been working so hard alongside of me on this issue. First, there needs to be a medical program, an adult use program, or recreational program, as it's also called, does not help children.
Right.
It does not help individuals that, they have guardians, that they're not able to make decisions on their own. They are in healthcare settings. You have to have a medical program. And sometimes people do not understand that, and that's okay. But my son is not helped by an adult use program. There are no protections for Colton. There are no protections for me as a caregiver. We must have a medical program. And that doesn't mean that we can go, that we can't go on and have something else. But when we talk about why have we not just thrown our hands up with medical and moved on, that's why.
You're fighting for the Coltons. You're fighting for the adults who are out there who have joined this fight for over a decade, and people like you who have set, your normal life aside and taken on this huge task. And finally had success at the ballot. We finally were able to get it on the ballot.
Right. And so when people say, they've won, I actually want to remind people they have not won. They have not won one single challenge that they have brought. Now, they have stalled. They have made it difficult. All of those things. We can go on and on. And in those ways that they've won, but they aren't winning. It is legal for a patient in the state of Nebraska today who has a medical recommendation from a healthcare practitioner to possess up to 5 ounces of cannabis for medical use. That is a huge win. So we've got to remember that. And the second thing is we are getting rules and regulations rolled out. They are, again, in defiance of the law, but there will be repercussions for that, right? And options. But this fight, it does continue. And the reason why it's important, I was struggling a couple of weeks ago here, especially after watching these rules and regulations be rolled out, signed, and just really felt defeated at all the work we've done, blood, sweat, and tears, emotion that has gone into this, and then seeing, again, a couple of people dictate that they know better and that they're going to go ahead and just do what they think is best. And after that meeting, I received a call that one of our, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Take your time.
One of our very active supporters and advocates had passed away. And Ben Marksmeier. And Ben was on our show. And so I've never met, didn't have the chance to meet Ben, but I interviewed him and we had a delightful conversation. And
Ben Marksmeier, in 2006, if I have this right, Ben, at age 20, your convoy was struck by a roadside bomb in southern Iraq. After being rushed to a field station, a medic pronounced you dead. Obviously, that was inaccurate. And now, nearly 20 years later, you are one of the most decorated soldiers in Nebraska, having earned a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star with Valor for your bravery on that day. So Ben, thank you for your service. Thanks for joining us here on the pod today, and tell me what I've missed, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me. It was my pleasure, my honor. I was dead, actually. I was dead. I took my dog tag, all my organs failed, so I was dead. But no, I just, suffering from, I sustained some nasty injuries, some nasty wounds, I should say. Lost my right leg above the knee, my left leg, lost majority of my hamstring, my Achilles, my ankle, toes. I mean, I have a salvage limb. So I suffer from a lot of neuropathy pain, which affects everything, your muscles, your bones, your tendons. I mean, just it tightens you up. Pain so much makes you feel cold, you know. So with this cannabis bill here in Nebraska, it's so crucial and essential because people should not have to give up their human rights to legally live happily, you know. And for Dominic's son, you know, he's given up longevity of life, you know, the pain and all the complication that comes with epilepsy. Like there's a lot more than just having epilepsy that comes with that. And if you can alleviate some of those with a simple knowledge of cannabis, you know, it's the knowledge of cannabis that the senators are not understanding. And when I go down there and talk to a few of them, or some of them now, I need to get in this fight more. You can't get mad at it. You can't get upset at it because they just don't know. You don't know what you don't know until you come across it and have someone educate you. And if you dismiss that knowledge, that's on an inhumane level that is unacceptable. You know, like people like Dominic's son, Will. That's why I fight, you know, because I fight simple pain, but there's certain people that have degenerating issues that can actually help the longevity of life. It's helping me have pleasure in life, and I can live with a little less pain, you know. So this is a community fight. I think we have to have cohesion within the medical field, the senators, our legislation, all that to bring this forth. I mean, this is for the Nebraska people. We support our senators, and now it's time for our senators to support the people that supported them, you know.
Yeah, that's well put, Ben. Yeah, just devastating.
Yeah. You know, a young man who, gosh, he'd started showing up before the legislature back as early as 2015, advocating on behalf of veterans. Ben was a veteran who had literally had his body blown apart.
Yep.
And he had done such an amazing job rebuilding his life. He was an amputee. He was looking at having actually his second limb, his second leg amputated because of the horrific pain that he was still in. But instead of feeling sorry for himself or, you know, he showed up. And he continued showing up. And Ben was such an amazing voice for veterans and not just the pain, the physical pain, but PTSD.
Yeah, because he told me, and he's obviously everyone he's talked to, that he became addicted to opioids, like so many of these stories of veterans and other people experience. And the only relief he could get was through medical cannabis.
Yep.
And
yes. You know, and I got to know Ben very well over this last session, especially because we saw a bill being brought that the legislature wanted to exclude PTSD. And I want everyone to know the beauty and the pain both in watching Ben and other veterans just like Ben show up. And although they could have been angry and outraged and thrown punches and spit at these lawmakers for trying to exclude them for a necessary, just human right to help some of our most vulnerable individuals who have sacrificed, the ultimate sacrifice, we're going to cut them out. We're not going to allow them. Their pain, their mental health is not important. It doesn't fit into what we want to do. But instead, they showed up and they spoke of how this plant had saved their lives and saved the lives of others around them. And they were an advocate in what we were trying to get done, which was getting something done, getting a program that would at least start helping people. And so instead of getting angry that their situation wouldn't be covered, you know, they got angry, they said that, and they moved on. And they said, but we're here fighting for everyone.
Well, and I even remember in my interview, and again, we'll show some of these clips, but asking Ben, because I had been told that he went down and testified and really wasn't that well received. And actually, some of the state senators were actually kind of hostile to him. And I was trying to get him to, giving him permission to name names, and he wouldn't do it. He was respectful, and as you said, positive and upbeat, and just wanted to tell his story to help others.
And he had a very, very powerful story. He was one of the best individuals I've ever worked alongside with sharing their story in a way that makes you think and makes you question, what you think, maybe your preconceived ideas. And Ben did that until the very end. And, he should be here.
Yeah.
And individuals like Ben who jumped in and advocated and fought and were selfless. There's a lot of those individuals who, in this waiting over a decade, are no longer here.
Yeah. Yeah. And so let's turn, if I may suggest, let's turn our grief and our anger into continued action.
Absolutely.
To get this across the fucking finish line and provide this medicine for Nebraskans. I hope people hear this, because they will. I'll damn well make sure they do hear this. And so let's turn that into action.
And that's what we have to do. And that's a great way to end this, because again, even on the days that are hard, days when sometimes it even feels like the state of Nebraska is a little bit kind of looking at me and saying, "What are you doing? Why aren't you fighting harder?" Sometimes you have to take a step back, and
Yeah.
we need to remember. We need to remember Ben, and we need to remember all the individuals that have given so much, and that's our reminder of why we will not give up. They may not be here to fight anymore for themselves and for the rest of us, but it is our duty, I believe, as human beings walking this earth, that we say, okay, that torch is mine now. And if we all take a little bit of that torch, do you know how bright and how much gets done? We can get a lot of shit done when we all pour our energy and our emotion and our dedication into something. And I can't think of anything better than continuing a fight to help people who so desperately need it, something life-changing. At the end of my days, I hope I'm able to say that I made change, and that someone's life, whether it's my child or someone else's child, that their life was made a little bit better because of the work I did while I was here. I think that's what we all should be doing. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to cost money. But that's why we're still here. And that's why Nebraskans for Medical Marijuana. I can't tell you what the future holds in terms of, is there adult use coming? Is there not? But what I can tell you is that we will continue fighting for medical. And we will not stop until all patients who are hurting, who are suffering, and who their doctor believes could be helped by cannabis, until they have access. Good access, safe access, affordable access.
Ballot approved. By the people of the state of Nebraska. Well, what are some things, in addition to just this knowledge and honoring our friend Ben and so many others, what can people do? What can folks do?
Yeah. Well, I'm a broken record when it says keep reaching out to the lawmakers. I've got to think at some point, maybe someone's story, maybe Ben's story being told by someone other than Ben, because he unfortunately can't tell it anymore. Maybe that's what finally makes a difference to someone. So I'd say keep reaching out. Reach out to this commission. It's LCC at frontdesk.nebraska.gov is the address to medical cannabis right now. Reach out, tell them what you think about these rules and regulations. Let them know that they are in violation, and they have a very clear mandate from the people of Nebraska. And I have to also say, Nebraskans for Medical Marijuana is a grassroots group. We are
Send your money, folks.
We are doing our best to continue raising money, but it's grassroots dollars. And I can tell you that I see every dollar that's spent, and we make sure we spend it where it needs the most. Litigation, folks, is very, very expensive, especially when you're up at the state, against the state of Nebraska.
And you have
And so
some of the
we need
best.
help with that. We have a phenomenal. There's nobody better. Again, they're 17-0 on their wins. Our team is.
Daniel Gutman. Shout out to Daniel.
Team. They are absolutely amazing. But financial donations to Nebraskans for medical marijuana at nebraskamarijuana.org.
And we'll put that in the show notes, Crista. Continue your fight, my friend. We will continue it with you. Gosh, I think I didn't check with my producer, but I think you may be the most often guest on the show now.
Well, I don't know. That may not be good for you, Dan. I mean, there's a lot of, I always like to mention that, I have the incredible honor to get to, have these conversations, and I'm the one that's easy to get a hold of, but there's an entire state behind me. But more importantly, there's a group of people that have carried this issue from day one. Ben was a part of that, and many of those people, again, no longer with us, but I just get to be the messenger. But the work is happening behind the scenes, and I am just so incredibly grateful to have had this opportunity to help lead that group. But there's a lot of heroes out there. Absolutely. And I just always want them to be recognized as well, because we wouldn't be here without them.
Well, you're very humble, and we'll keep fighting with you, my friend.
I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Crista, for everything you do. Stay strong, keep fighting. We'll do the same. If you're moved by this episode, I'd encourage you to reach out to Crista and our friends and offer your support. It really would make a great deal of difference in this fight. And if you're not following us on YouTube, hop on over there and hit the subscribe button. We've already surpassed last month's record views. I really would appreciate it. Okay, that's today's show. Thanks for tuning in. Now go do good things. I'm Dan Parsons.